Yeah. Pete Hegseth's downfall is upon us. We'll talk about that too. Wait, really? I almost got hit by a Tesla in the parking lot the other day that was summoned by his driver, and then it drove in a circle at a four-way stop, went up a curve, and then drove off. Nice. Yo, Teslas, swastikars only do that when they're really, really under distress. Okay? You just have to run away in the opposite direction. You have to run away in the opposite direction when you see a car do that.
We want to get right to our top story.
I feel so bad because so many people have. I know so many people that got Teslas back in the day because they were like, I want to have an EV. I am environmentally conscious, and now they're just like, what do I do with this? I'm kind of stuck.
Or you see Michael there in Vatican City as we celebrate the life of Pope Francis, the spiritual leader of the world's more than 1.3 billion Catholics. There will be 9 days of mourning for the man known as the People's Pope. His body will be brought to St. Peter's Basilica.
And the public viewing will begin there tomorrow.
Bro, they have so many metal practices. Like they have the open casket, which I always found to be strange.
Mourners will pay their respects. It was also just announced this morning that Pope Francis' funeral will be on Saturday. Thousands of people are expected, including dignitaries from around the world. President Trump and the First Lady will be attending the funeral. And as we said, Michael is in Vatican City where the faithful are gathering. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, good morning, George. We know Pope Francis, he left instructions in his will that his tomb be, quote, simple, without particular decoration, and with the only inscription, Franciscus, which is his name in Latin. The conclave of cardinals will meet in the Sistine Chapel to elect the person who will take his place. And we're going to have much more on that process. But first, our chief international correspondent, Jane Longman, starts us off in St. Peter's Square, where Pope Francis made his final public appearance just hours before he died, giving the traditional Easter blessing. Good morning, James.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, we've been watching all morning as tourists, visitors, pilgrims come by to pay their respects. They are, of course, finding themselves now in this real moment of history. We now know that Francis will lie in state for 3 days from tomorrow. He'll be brought in a ceremony tomorrow up the steps of St. Peter's Basilica there behind me. Lie in state through Saturday, when the funeral will take place right here in St. Peter's Square.
Thousands flocking to St. Peter's Square to celebrate the life of the Holy Father and mourn the loss of a one-of-a-kind Pope.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
It comes as this morning we're seeing the first images of Pope Francis after his passing.
Like, that's crazy to me, bro. I don't understand the open casket stuff. I mean, obviously the wildest version of this is like, I forget which country does this, but like sometimes there's these like old practices of just like straight up propping up a dead guy. You know what I mean? Straight up propping up a dead guy and like dressing them and then like making the dead guy do stuff at its funeral. And it's like, it's still metal. It's kind of creepy, but it's metal. Like when you embalm, this was a Soviet practice, by the way. Like embalming is like another practice that commonly was utilized. Like Lenin is embalmed. I believe Stalin was also embalmed. Mao and Ho Chi Minh. I just don't understand. What do you do? What do you mean make it do stuff? I don't know. Sometimes I'll see these like crazy videos of like a dead dude. They'll be like, this is a funeral proceeding for a dead guy, where they just like make the dead guy dance a little bit or something. I don't know. I just want to see bodies flopping out of coffins and hitting pavement like that show on Corn Cob TV.
In a simple wooden coffin that he requested. This certification of death ceremony presided over by American Cardinal Kevin Farrell, the Carmelengo, who is essentially running the Vatican until a new pope is elected. The General Congregation of Cardinals is meeting this morning, and they're announcing these next.
Maybe it's some weird Jacobian thing? No. If anything, Catholics, I feel like, are the only children of Jacob that do this kind of like open casket stuff. It's definitely way more like a Caribbean thing or like old school. I feel like it's like old school indigenous practices and shit. Like it's I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird. I don't understand it, but I also think it's like very metal, as I've said.
Steps. The public viewing for the Pope will begin Wednesday. He'll lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica for 3 days before his funeral Saturday in St. Peter's Square. And in his will, Pope Francis with the
most metal Vatican practice, the blackened skull of Mary Magdalene. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Dude, this is like... The Catholic Church operates on Warhammer 40K principles in real life. Like, they literally do Warhammer 40K shit. Like, if they had the technology, the Catholic Church would be Warhammer 40K, okay? Which, ironically enough, it does take a lot of its notes from Catholicism and Catholic practice. When I found out that the Catholics have like Dark Souls style, like direct bones of saints that they send out to like churches all around the world, I was like, that's wild. Okay. Yeah. There are bones. For those of you who don't know, there are bones of saints in many churches around the planet. Catholic churches around the planet all have like ancient relics. It's crazy. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's very weird, but it's kind of cool. They drink the blood of Jesus every week. I mean, I guess that also makes sense. Every altar has a relic in it. Seeing the body lying dead helps for you to accept that the person is dead, I guess. It's debated if those are actual relics, though. They just send out random scraps of clothing, too. Yeah, they do that.
The simple requests that characterized his papacy, asking only to be buried in the earth at St. Mary Maggiore Basilica in Rome. He'll be the first pope to be buried outside of the Vatican in over a century.
Did you know that when a pope dies, they use an extraction device, kind of like their version of a fleshlight, and they extract the holy seed from the pope? The juices are then mixed with the wine and consumed by the College of Cardinals? I don't believe that. I think you made that up. That sounds insane and also an unsanitary practice. I don't
Details
believe
on the
you.
conclave to replace him have yet to be released. Francis died Easter Monday from a cerebral stroke, losing blood to his brain. The Pope fell into a coma with irreversible heart failure and passed away at 7:35 that morning. Just a day before,
Dr. Mike Rabinovich would have been able to save him. They should have shipped off the Pope to the pit. They should have put him in front of the greatest ER technicians of all time. They would have fixed him up real quick. He'd be running around, hopping and skipping the next day, okay?
he was at St. Peter's Square in this extraordinary scene, making what would become his final public appearance.
Catholic Church doing the type of shit that anti-Semites and Nazis think Jews are doing, but out in the open? Yeah, but they're Catholic, and they're, supposed to be an anti-Semitic institution historically, so it doesn't matter. They're good. It's good when they're doing that.
He greeted thousands from the Pope-mobile, blessing children in the crowd. Francis held on for Easter, the most important time of the year for Catholics, his voice just a whisper.
Fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
He had been battling pneumonia in both lungs, hospitalized for 38 days, and he suffered 2 emergencies that nearly ended his life. President Trump summing up what made Francis special.
He's a very good man who loved the world, and he especially loved people that were having a hard time, and that's good with me.
But this Pope was, for some Catholics, a controversial one. We spoke to an American family visiting the Vatican.
This was a Pope who was viewed as socially liberal. This past Pope was just a little out of step with a lot of the people.
After the Pope passed, his papal...
We should never, for the sake of humanity, for the sake of evolving, we should never lend a microphone to Americans. I think the world would be a better place if we never heard from Americans on any issue ever again, okay? I think Americans should permanently shut the fuck up, okay? We ruin everything. We are responsible for so much annoying commentary out there. We're responsible for so much brain rot. But it's on, you're an American with a microphone. I'll shut the fuck up. Let's get it started. I think for the greater good, if the rest of the world never heard from an American ever again, I'd be willing to shut the fuck up. It is so goddamn annoying. Anytime, dude, what is happening? It's just like anytime you got an American on the mic, I'm like, oh, here we go. What kind of dumb nonsense will we hear today? Okay. What kind of ridiculous shit are we going to hear about today?
Apartment closed off, red wax sealing the binds, part of a centuries-old tradition, ahead of preparations for his funeral.
We should know a little later today what hours people will be able to come and view Pope Francis as he lies in state. But it's not just Rome or the Vatican that should be remembering him. This is a man who took the church out to the very margins. And so from Papua New Guinea to Mongolia to the very north of Canada and Inuit communities, millions of people around the world will be remembering him this week.
It's so American to think you can even disagree with the Pope in the first place. Yeah, being like the Pope is actually out of step with the rest of global Catholicism is like an insane thing to say. It's the opposite, dude. What do you mean? Are you Lutheran? Like, what? I don't understand. Are you a Protestant? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're out of step with the papacy? Like, it doesn't make any sense. The entire point of being Catholic is so you're not out of step with what the Pope is saying. What are we doing? Nah, This Pope, too woke, not for me. Okay, I guess you're not Catholic then. You're something different. What are we doing?
Pope Francis did touch so many hearts, and that's why bells tolled in Catholic churches all around the world to honor the Holy Father yesterday. And the faithful have gathered here to remember his legacy. And that included worshipers in Buenos Aires, Argentina's capital.
Yeah. Papal infallibility is a dogma of the Catholic Church, which states that in virtue of the promise of Jesus to Peter, the Pope, when he speaks ex cathedra, is preserving the possibility of error on doctrine initially given to the apostolic church and handed down in scripture and tradition. It does not mean that the Pope cannot sin or otherwise err in some capacity, though he is prevented by the assistance of the Holy Spirit in issuing heretical teaching, even in his non-infallible magisterium, as a corollary of indefectibility, i.e., whatever the Pope says goes. There is no, I don't agree with the Pope. They would assassinate you a couple hundred years ago if you were like, the Pope guy, this Pope, too woke for me. Okay, you're dead. Now we're gonna kill you. That's like the only thing that separates you as a Catholic from the other branches. You might as well be Mormon at that point. Just make it up as you go along. What do you mean? It's just funny because, like, I don't believe in any of this shit, but you ostensibly do. You claim to believe it. So what do you mean you don't agree?
Where Francis grew up as Jorge Mario Bergoglio. You can remember he was actually the Archbishop of Buenos Aires before he became the first Latin American Pope. In France, parishioners mourned Francis during services at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Palestinian Catholics honored the Pope in Gaza City.
Matt Walsh, rest in peace, Pope Francis. May the next Pope guide the church with courage, clarity, and a deep respect for tradition. Like, Matt Walsh is the most heretical person on the planet, okay? Everything that this woke Pope stood for, Matt Walsh stands against, despite being Catholic. He is exactly who I'm talking about. I am more Catholic than Matt Walsh is with my alignment with the previous Pope, okay? Like, my ideological alignment with the previous Pope puts me in a higher position of being a better Catholic than Matt Walsh. I also feel a deep sense of guilt as well. So that also gives me additional Catholic brownie points. He doesn't. He is guilt-free, okay? He is a shameless monster. Even worse, he's an Irish Catholic and he's got all the wrong takes based on both. I know. It's just like, he's the reason why Irish people from Ireland look at Irish Americans in a very negative lens.
So did people in the Ukrainian city of Lviv. So all over the world, people are mourning Pope Francis. The Pope told us last year that he made nightly phone calls to Gaza's Holy Family Catholic Parish in Gaza, something he continued to do right up until his death. In the U.S., President Trump.
No child of Byzantium should speak on this issue. That's right. Technically, I'm a descendant of the caliphate, okay? I'm directly at odds with the papacy.
Also ordered all of the flags to half-staff. We are expecting to have President Trump come here to that funeral on Saturday, as well as many other world leaders. Vlad?
Nora, he really was the people's pope. As you know, there are...
Wait, what? Lenin, if they exiled him to Turkey instead, would have been absolutely unstoppable. Happy birthday, King. Wow, they cured his balding. Yeah. Lenin is Turk. Isn't he Tatar? Which is Turkic. So no disrespect to anybody here, but like he is a Turk. Okay. Come on. He is a Turkish man. Oh, here we go. I'm just saying the truth. Technically, as someone of Tatar background, he would still be definitionally, he has Turkic roots. And Stalin is also Turkic because he's Georgian and 5'4". And that's very Turkish of him. And his mustache. Kalmyk, not Tatar, but still Turkic. Google says no. Sorry, brother. You take every opportunity to yab about Turks. I just like having like a fun, weird... I like to throw like a fun, weird take in there, you know, to confuse people every now and then. Except this is not one of them. This is the truth. Quarter Russian, quarter Jewish, half unknown, but not Russian. Bro, he straight up looks like the the ethnic spreadsheet that they had in the USSR to profile people or whatever. Lenin looks exactly like the Tatar photo on the ethnic profile. Also, maybe controversial take, but like he looks better bald. I think he was a very handsome man.
More than 1 billion Roman Catholics. It's one of the world's largest religious denominations. For people outside of our Catholic faith, how would you describe the Pope's role in historical terms and its lasting relevance today?
Well, it's a great question. You know, when the Pope speaks, the world listens. I mean, there is no other leader in the world.
Okay, I'm sorry, but no, I think the world has been deaf for quite a bit, for quite a while about the woke Pope. We kind of collectively ignored what the woke Pope was saying because he just kept talking about how the markets won't save the planet, you know? And everyone was like, nah, I think there's a higher religion that I care about, the religion of capitalist dogma. There's a more significant dogma that I abide by, which is capitalism. Straight up. I think it is a testament to the change of attitude overall and the fact that religion doesn't have any motion whatsoever under capitalism. He straight up was like, markets are killing the planet. Gaza has a new act of terrorism committed by the Israeli state on a daily basis. And everyone was like, all right, big guy, go to sleep. Come on.
World that speaks to so many faithful. There, as you mentioned, more than 1 billion Catholics. But he is more than just...
Here. Let's listen. In 2021, Pope Francis gave a speech calling on ending the weapons manufacturing industry, debt of poor nations, and all sanctions, saying it's a form of neocolonialism, while also critiquing the capitalist system for its relentless logic of profit. In the name of God, I ask financial groups and international credit institutions to allow countries to assure the basic needs of their people and to cancel those debts that so often are contracted against the interests of those same peoples. In the name of God, I ask the great extractive industries, mining, oil, forestry, real estate, agribusiness, to stop destroying forests, wetlands, and mountains, to stop polluting rivers and seas, to stop poisoning food and people. In the name of God, I ask the great food corporations stop imposing monopolistic systems of production and distribution that inflate prices and end up withholding bread from the hungry. In the name of God, I ask arms manufacturers and dealers to completely stop their activity because it foments violence and war. It contributes to those awful geopolitical games which cost millions of lives displaced and millions dead. In the name of God, I call on powerful countries to stop aggression, blockades, and unilateral sanctions against any country anywhere on earth. No to neocolonialism. Conflicts must be resolved in multilateral fora, such as the United Nations. We have already seen how unilateral interventions, invasions, and occupations end up, even if they are justified by noble motives and fine words. The system, with its relentless logic of profit, is escaping all human control. It is time to slow the locomotive down, an out-of-control locomotive hurling towards the abyss. There is still time. So what happened? What happened is everybody's like, all right, dude, shut up. The only disagreement I have with the gay woke Pope here is that he thought that there was still time to save this system.
Just a religious leader. He is a spiritual and moral leader. Think about when he talks about climate change. That's a big deal.
Liberals hear the Pope saying this and liberals be like, wow, this guy's a tanky.
And when he talks about war and peace, he has called war an obscenity. That's why you'll see so many world leaders here. And then I think one other thing to know is he is also the Bishop of Rome. He is a head of state of this very small sovereign state called the Vatican. So he has those responsibilities, and that's why he travels around the world. Vlad?
Nora, beautiful. Thank you very much.
So glad to have you there, Nora. We'll check back in with you later in the show and certainly tomorrow. Thank you.
This morning, cardinals are descending on Vatican City from across the globe, pushing past the world's media, who have also descended to their first meeting. Of the 135 cardinals under the age of 80 eligible to vote in the conclave, the vast majority, 108, were appointed by Francis, including more than 20 from places that had never had a cardinal before.
This is going to be a very open process, it seems to me, in which two things are most important. One, does this man communicate a vibrant, energizing faith? And secondly, can he govern?
As the Catholic Church grows in Asia, Cardinal Louis
There's no metro in Vatican, no high-speed rail in the Vatican, no sustainable energy generation in the Vatican. How do you not call out this hypocrisy, Hasan? Yeah, I can't believe it. Also, their renewable energy grid would look like what? 3 solar panels? I don't even know how you could do you can't do high-speed rail across the board. There's just no way to do it. It is walkable, as in you can walk the entirety of the Vatican fairly quickly. It is endlessly walkable, as a matter of fact. It's the most walkable place on the planet.
Tagle from the Philippines is a frontrunner to be the first Asian pope. Referred to as the Pope Francis of Asia, with a heavy focus on social justice and caring for the poor. But at 67 years old, he's on the young side. Or will...
Yeah, here's my young side goat, Pinoy gang.
Many factory workers are being denied the right wages for the God called prophet. How many women are being sacrificed to the God called
anti-misogynist, anti-capitalist Pope would go so hard, and swagapinos rise up. Oh my God, dude. There's just, I mean, that would be the sickest.
How many children are being sacrificed to the God called lust?
Anti-pedophilia Pope.
How many trees, rivers, hills are being sacrificed to the God called progress? And how many poor people are being sacrificed to the God of greed? And defenseless people.
That was anti-abortion, not anti-pedophilia. Shh, shh, shh. Don't talk about that. Shh, don't worry about it. We are, listen, it's a matter up for interpretation. Okay, calm down. Shh, don't ruin it. We got a Maoist third worldist Pope out here.
Sacrificed to the God of national security.
Pope Francis should have said, if I see the gospel in a sociological way, yes, I am a communist, and so too is Jesus. He's been on this. Yeah, I mean, of course. It's true. It's literally true, dude. What do you mean? Yes, Christianity and all religion and all of the lessons that are taught in religious scripture has a deeply anti-capitalist slant to it. Of course. I mean, even some of the most foundational, super basic lessons that you learn as a child, like sharing is caring. Okay. Where is the profit motive baked into this argument? I don't understand. Like, people try extra hard. Well, Protestants especially have done everything in their power to turn the Bible into a tool for capitalism. But that's why I always say religion is just another ideological tool that you can wield in whichever direction you see fit. I would go so far as to say it's harder to actually fit religious scripture into a capitalist message, and yet the prosperity gospel has done so fairly successfully. But that's all this is. That's all this is. Jesus curing the lepers and not demanding pay in return goes against the capitalist dogma. Jesus Christ did not deny coverage of the lepers by being like, well, you're outside of our area of coverage, sir. Sorry. That's not how that works. Capitalism is antithetical to all of the social rules and good practices that are that you're supposed to abide by if you truly follow religious scripture. Yeah, supply side Jesus, baby. Bernie Sanders should be forced to give away 90% of his birthday cake. Hashtag happy birthday, Bernie. Yeah, that's how the cake works. Anyway.
Will the church stage an Italian comeback of sorts after 3 successive outsiders in recent decades?
Look at the drip.
Italian Cardinal.
How are you going to tell me the Vatican is not a gay institution? Look at the goddamn drip that these boys wear, you know?
Pietro Parolin is 70. He's an experienced Vatican official with serious name recognition. He served as Francis's Secretary of State, but he lacks pastoral experience. Another Italian, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, is also on the short list. At 60,
that's like, you know, that'd be funny. Like, that's a funny person. That's a funny name for a pope.
He's lived for the last 3 decades in the Middle East, currently serving as
It's a me, pizza ball. It's a me. I love the pizza. It's a me, the pizza ball.
the Latin
he's pretty cool too. He's got some good ass takes.
Patriarch of Jerusalem.
An Italian.
Now, of course, he would adopt a new name if he became the Pope anyway. But in my mind, I hope he just keeps the name Pizza Balls. I am the Pope of Pizza Ball. I love the pizza balls. Yes.
And comeback?
I think right now, Molly, nationality means nothing in this.
No, hey, but why do you say okay almost after every sentence? Is that a tick?
As a united bloc.
Yes.
Or will the cardinals determine the church requires a conservative voice rolling back Francis's progressive agenda? Cardinal Peter Erdo, at 72, is a leading conservative from Hungary, supported among the European cardinals, and is close to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. But it will all come down to the voting. The conclave gets underway 15 to 20 days after Francis's death. The cardinals sealed off.
Remember, woke Pope Francis actually left an impact over the course of the past 12 plus years, where the overwhelming majority of the cardinals that are going to be electing the new Pope are his cardinals. Now, he packed those goddamn courts pretty hard. So we shall see what happens in the process. So the Vatican might still continue moving in the direction of progressivism and maybe even anti-capitalist thought, anti-capitalist sentiment being dished out, especially if they go with Pinoy Gang, especially if they go with a Swagapino Pope.
Inside the Sistine Chapel until a new Pope is chosen.
Well, this was decently intelligent commentary until the pizza comments. You get both here, okay?
Now, another interesting thing about the cardinal electors this year, it's an incredibly diverse bunch. They don't all know each other. So a lot of the next 2 weeks will be about getting to know each other and then figuring out who is best to lead. Guys?
Molly, thank you so much.
Let's bring in NBC News analyst Christopher White, the Vatican correspondent for the National Catholic Reporter. Christopher, good morning to you. Thanks for coming back. I read yesterday that you said that this Pope was a shock to the system, and I know we're going to dig into some of the specific frontrunners in just a moment. But just on a macro level, Christopher, do we think that the church will move in the direction of a reformer like Pope Francis, or do we think that they might go with someone who's more conservative?
I think it's fair to say the church is at a crossroads right now. Do they want to continue on the path of reform that Francis initiated, of opening the Catholic Church up to the modern world, or do they want a course correction? That's the big question that the cardinals will face when they have these backdoor meetings in the coming weeks. But I think, Pope Francis named 80% of the men that are going to be electing his successor, and because of that, I think it's fair to say they mostly share his same priorities.
We're kind of putting these cardinal contenders in categories. It's weird to be talking about something that's spiritual, but it's also quite practical. So there's the Italian strand of potential cardinals. Tell us about them.
Well, for a long time, there's been an appetite to resist giving the papacy back to the Italians. We had a Polish Pope, a German Pope, and then Argentinian Pope. Is this the moment for the Italians? If there is going to be an Italian Pope, I think Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who is Pope Francis's Secretary of State, his top diplomat, he's a real contender. He has name recognition, and so he has to be taken seriously just on that alone. But the problem is he doesn't have pastoral experience, and for Pope Francis, he often said that he wants leaders in the church to have the smell of the sheep, to be with the people. And so it's hard to square that vision of the church with Parolin's resume. Also, Cardinal Pizzaballa, who Molly mentioned, is someone who's very well aware of the geopolitical circumstances of the moment, and that's why his name has also surfaced.
Christopher, I will take your potential Italian successors and raise you one former Archbishop of Manila. What can you tell us about the Cardinal Tagle, who was mentioned there? Is a 3-1 favorite from Newsweek, a progressive agenda like Francis. What do you think?
Cardinal Tagle was a front runner in 2013. He's in recent years been referred to as an Asian Pope Francis because of his concern for the poor, his own sort of emphasis on humility. He's got the charisma, the wow factor that some people are really looking for in the next Pope. There are questions about how good is he at management, and I think that's something that cardinals will be scrutinizing in the coming days.
Christopher, really quickly, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about the American Cardinal.
Oh, God. Charlie Kirk just tweeted out that he has pictures of the extraction of the holy seed. What?
And the Canadian Cardinal.
Yeah, Cardinal Robert Prevost, who's the head of the Vatican's doctrine, or the Vatican's.
What are the odds they pick a non-white pope? I don't know. Considering that Pinoy gang, there's like, from what I understand, there's 4 cardinals that like embody the spirit of Pope Francis, and only one of them is white or Italian. There's the Pinoy gang guy. I think there's the other guy that's from, is it the dude from the Congo? And then the American guy, and the American dude is actually black. So, and yes, by the way, before you guys go, excuse me, Italians are not white. No, when we're talking about picking the new pope, Italians are the most white. They are more white than Germans. They are more white than Anglo-Saxons. Okay. The Italians are the white guys in the Vatican. Okay. You cannot be more white than an Italian when you're picking the pope. No, there's an American dude too. There's 2 American guys. One is the reactionary psycho, and then the other one is the black dude. A black pope would make my parents fade. I feel like if they chose a black pope, like even a Filipino pope is going to make people really annoyed and make the racists angry. But a black pope, honestly, I feel like we are going to see new, dusted off, antiquated relics of racism. People are going to be going into the pyramids, okay? Evading booby traps, opening up the dusted tomes to find new ways of being anti-black because the old ways clearly have not worked. They are going to open up racism artifacts.
Office for looking for bishops around the world. He's Chicago born, but he spent most of his life outside of the United States. I think that makes him someone who knows how the Vatican works from the inside, but he's not really viewed as an American, which makes him an intriguing possibility. And then there's Cardinal Lacroix of Quebec City. He's seen as a real manager who sort of shares the Pope's.
So, chat, Western white culture basically started in Rome. Stop this, Italians are POC. Northern Norwegians are more POC under this framework, for fuck's sake. Yo, that's actually also wrong. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is that, like, yeah, in the post-Mussolini era, maybe, like, the way we understand, like, Italian culture or Roman culture as, like, a upholding white supremacist thought is such a funny cope. Because the Romans historically were not white, dude. They were insanely diverse. Mostly led by brown dudes who were killing the white barbarians and then ethnically replacing that, or either turning them into slaves, indentured servants, or literally displacing ethnically the white barbarians. It's such a funny concept that, like, where I have it right here somewhere. Yeah, white culture isn't real. This guy says this is a AF Loyals, like, very clearly a white supremacist account. Okay, one of the funniest copes that dumb fucks have, ironically, and it's kind of like the same cope that Hitler fell to as well with the Roman salute, right? Like the idea that, like, Germans had some ancient mythology that created this, like, Aryan race, this master race, and so did the Italians. Like, these motherfuckers were not white, dude. They were gay as hell, and they were not white at all. Yeah, dude, these are movies. I don't know if you know this. These are movies, and they're not an accurate reflection of history. And they are movies made in the Western world. And therefore, they have adopted our current standards, our current cultural standards. Of course, they are mostly white people playing these roles, but that's not how this was at all back then. Like, even this, I mean, not to get all nerdy with it, but even this is a lie. This is not how this shit looked back then, okay? It wasn't white, big dog. It had hella colors on it. They were all painted. Every part of I like, the Roman era, my Roman Empire in my mind. Like, everything that these guys hold on to is just completely wrong. Like, how brown we talking? I'm assuming way more brown than you. Yeah, of course, way more brown than me. Still European, if not pasty white. What are we talking about? We're talking about the fucking Roman Empire. What do you mean still European, dude? Yes, all the fucking marble statues were not actually white, dude. They were all painted. What is this? Yeah, white people have no culture. Meanwhile, white people. And then this guy's just a okay. Like, this is the shit that I don't understand. Like, why does every white nationalist account automatically go, yeah, look at the white culture. My white culture is like a little girl. That's my culture. Yeah, white culture is pedophilia, I guess. My ancestor. Himmler had scientists undertake excavations of prehistoric sites. Hitler commented, why do we call the whole world's attention to the fact that we have no past? It isn't enough that the Romans were erecting great buildings when our forefathers were still living in mud huts. Now Himmler is starting to dig up these villages of mud huts and enthusing over every post herd and stone axe he finds. The amount of cope, the amount of anger, resentment, and cope that nationalists of the Hitler era had over not having any serious like cultural monuments from that era was unimaginable. It was so crazy that they had to whole cloth invent a new mythology. They had to steal the for example, ironically enough, and, you know, turn it into obviously the greatest symbol of evil. Like every single thing that they did, they had architects. This is not just Indiana Jones. Like they straight up had architects all around the planet trying to find and dig up new artifacts and then like try to make this loose association with like Germanic origin. Spain was Muslim African brown for 1,000 or more years. Yeah, that too. Yeah, majority of Greek and Roman marble sculpture was painted based on an examination of paint ghosts on the original statues. Traces of paint, detectable ultraviolet lights have been found. How would emperors be in color? Probably like these. Emperor Macrinus, greatest Roman emperor ever, from Roman Algeria in North Africa, played by Denzel Washington. There's a coin engraving. He looks very not white. Wait, was I saying architects? I meant archaeologists. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just like endless amounts of cope. White people being like, no, you don't understand. Like the Nazis did this so funny. The Nazis did this very funny thing where they just had to like rebuild. They had to rebuild like an entire mythology surrounding it because they had so much resentment for the fact that they were just like people living in mud huts and were considered barbarians by the superior Roman Empire at the time. And it's funny because like there is some cool in German mythology as well that they could just talk about, you know, holding up a strong front against a much more superior military. Like there's all that stuff that you could actually hype up if you wanted to, but no, they had to also invent new American German people seem to have that inferiority complex too. No, Americans have that same inferiority complex too, because America is a relatively new country that also doesn't have any kind of real mythology. We make that shit up too. A bunch of criminals that came here and then murdered every indigenous person. Anti-materialist ideology has to distort history to fit their ideology. Yeah. The Romans had no concept of whiteness. In the mid to late empire, the leadership of the empire was super diverse due to the Romanization of the provinces that have been ongoing for the past 200 plus years. The ethnicity of the soldiers would have been dependent on the period of time and location. Dalmatia and Syria were big recruitment areas. Yeah. Same is true for the Turks as well. Most Turkish history comes from one German archaeologist in the 1800s. I mean, at least you could say that the Turkic, the steppe warriors that came, like there is a existing mythology that I think people cope and obviously harp on regularly. But at least there's like with Chinese mythology, like there is a history there. There's a through line. There's like a lot of stuff you can point to. It's not like Turks will turn around and be like, we invented a ton of things and we had buildings that stood tall. Like, no, they're like, yeah, we were warriors of the steppe, a nomadic people. You know what I mean? They don't do the we were kings. They do the we were nomadic barbarians. From the historical perspective of anthropology, the turn to describing Romans as Greeks as white and the creation of white culture in the West was due to the fact that they were so astounded by North Africa's marvels, pyramids, Library of Alexandria, descriptions, etc., that they came to the conclusion that they had to be white or aliens did it. Yeah, even the naming convention of barbarians is the Roman Empire saying like, oh, these guys are you know, they're lesser than us. Look, they're living in mud huts. They're tribal people. It's so weird to think about it now with today's framework because all of these countries are now under the banner of whiteness. But the Roman Empire, like at least the territories that it controlled and what the demographics look like, was insanely diverse. Of course, every empire, especially back then, was insanely diverse. What is the most imperialist superpower on the planet? The United States of America. Also very diverse. Look at England. Also very diverse in comparison to other places, because a lot of that colonial exploitation ends up bringing people from the colonies into the OG land that is doing the colonizing. Yeah. Roman Empire was insanely diverse. The Ottoman Empire was insanely diverse. So empires fail because of DEI? No, empires succeed, ironically enough, because of diversity and DEI for as long as they do. That is literally, there is no world without cultural exchange. There is no world without, by way of trade or by way of war. Cultural exchange has elevated humanity to the position that we've gotten to. There's just nothing. You are nothing without centuries and centuries of people warring with one another and picking up certain things. It's quite literally the opposite. It's DEI or die. So a lot of these people that just like turn a blind eye to that and say, no, actually it's because they were too diverse that they fell apart, they're stupid. In any case, Himmler started to dig up these villages of mud huts and enthusing over every pot's herd and stone axe he finds. All we prove by that is that we were still throwing stone hatchets and crouching around open fires when Greece and Rome had already reached the highest stage of culture. We really should do our best to keep quiet about this past. Instead, Himmler makes a great fuss about it all. The present-day Romans must be having a laugh at these relegations. Anyway, I know it's Reddit, but it's 2,000-year-old portraits of Romans. 2,000-year-old ancient portraits of Romans found in a necropolis in Egypt. Bunch of white folk, dude. Like, whiteness as a concept, whiteness as a racial construct, also, and like Western civilization and whiteness as a racial construct is a relatively new phenomena in the history of mankind. This wasn't a thing. It's very difficult to explain this to people because we are so, our perspective is so clouded by what we experience and what we see that it's impossible to see a world beyond our limited lifetime. Our intelligence and our scope is so narrow. But like there is no like whiteness as a concept, as it doesn't really exist right now anyway. It's not real regardless. It's just like a totally made up social construct. The reason why it exists is to justify slavery, chattel slavery specifically, because missionaries were unfortunately converting too many black people to Christianity, and they couldn't justify enslaving Christians. So they had to be like, yeah, well, these guys are not real guys. They're just not even human. They're just inferior beings. Let's just go with that. It's reductive, but that's pretty much the underlying basis for white supremacist thought and the field of eugenics that is associated with it. It's a way to try and scientifically explain the inferiority of black people in an effort to justify it as times changed. Because if everybody recognized that, black people were also human beings, that they'd be like, what the fuck are we doing? This is kind of fucked up, don't you think? And many people did recognize it, for the record. They were like, this is ridiculous. Shouts out the great Reverend John Brown. Skin color the whole time was just our bodies adapting to the environment, so mind-numbing. Also true, the specific American concept of race as a biological or blood-related came from chattel slavery, and subsequently gynecology, phrenology, etc. is trying to naturalize it into science. Exactly. There are different depictions of paleness of the skin as a marker for like being a part of the upper caste or upper class or aristocracy, whatever you want to call it. Like even in China, right? And it's not a colonial remnant as it is in other places, but in places like China, the darker your skin is, the more likely that you actually worked in the fields. The more pale your skin was, the more you were sheltered from the elements. So colorism in different ways exists all around the world for different reasons, but it's not always the same. But if you're asking about like whiteness, white culture, white superiority, all of these concepts were invented as a social construct, just like the paleness thing that I was talking about in China, for example, or in Asian cultures. The whiteness concept was whole cloth invented in an effort to somehow make black people a separate thing, a separate class that wasn't human. Why are you Islamophobic right now? What do you mean? Anyway, yeah. Also for Indians, when they were mass murdering them at first on the basis of them being pagans, and when they converted on the basis of race. But yeah, like I've said before, I do find it fascinating and very funny that like people, like nationalist attitudes don't change throughout time. Okay, they still end up trying to invent a false narrative, a false interpretation of like actual history in a way that reflects their current anxieties, their current needs, and their current understanding of culture, their current understanding of race. Very stupid. Anyway, Kemalist Atatürk Kemal says, if it were up to me, the Pope would be extremely red-pilled. No more acceptance of homos. Declare Islam a threat to all Catholics. Take a firm stance against vaccines. No sacrament to corrupt heads of state. No more baptism of bastards. This is a Turkish Atatürk supporter who is, I assume, extreme Islamophobe. You are African. You don't get to Deist vault. You're the only one they're going to be impaling Lamau. A man can't dream. Not about this. No. You got to intimately understand you're the enemy in this scenario. How am I the enemy? You're a Kenyan. Wait, this guy is not even a f***ing Turk? A Kenyan Kemalist? What the f***? I've seen it all. What is happening? How do you even encounter a Kemalist framework all the way in Kenya? One of the funniest things I've seen, by the way, is even Matt Walsh briefly touched on this last week, is that everyone is really annoyed with all of the like African, Indian, Asian run white supremacist accounts that are like Defend the West or Radio Genoa or Ian Miles Chong that will uphold white supremacist thought, and they're doing it because they're responding to the algorithm, and you know, a $35 payout goes a much longer way when you're in India than it does when you're in the United States of America. So a lot of these guys are just like botting the shit out of their accounts. And because they recognize that the algorithm demands unfiltered, unrestricted white supremacist commentary, half of those, almost all of those accounts that are like the marbled statue avatar accounts, almost all of them are actually not white. Like not even remotely white. Not even like Italians are white type white. Like straight up dudes who have never been to the Western world, dudes who are operating their accounts from, operating their accounts with the global South in general. Wait, Hasanabi, you mean the alt-right is being unintentionally cruelly mocked? No, it's not even a cruel mockery. I'm sure there's plenty of real white nationalists out there that enjoy these accounts, not realizing that they're run by not white people. But the reason why they're doing that, the reason why those accounts pop off is because they recognize that the algorithm wants this kind of thing and will greatly elevate you. And you can make a lot of money doing so. A lot of money that would not be considered a lot of money in the Western world, but it's a lot of money where you're at. You know what I mean? Yeah. Aryan white savior 1488, location Indonesia. Yep. It is a very sad state of affairs overall. But, you know, I respect the hustle. Here's CNN covering some of the cooler things that the Pope has said. I want to get back to that and finish that off, button that up, and then we'll talk about all this other shit. Yeah. All right.
At almost every turn in Pope Francis's trip to South America, his message, the world needs to pay attention to the poor.
Y crece entre los pobres a costilla de los más pobres, de los más excluidos.
All leading up to this bombshell in Bolivia.
La ambición desenfrenada de dinero.
An unfettered pursuit of money rules. That is the dung of the devil.
Saying unbridled capitalism is the dung of the devil, searing language of social activism from the Holy Father as he spoke to a group of grassroots organizations.
The Pope is not afraid to use strong language. He needs to get people's attention as Jesus did in a world full of noise and confusion.
The pontiff also talking about new colonialism, the capitalistic world of free trade agreements and austerity measures that take from the poor and give to big multinational corporations.
As the Pope moves on to his next stop, the message here well received, especially by those countries who've been governed by dictatorships in recent history.
The response from the United States? Unclear. As for conservative Republicans, if the backlash from the Pope's recent letter on the environment is any indication, presidential hopefuls won't hold back.
I don't get economic policy from my bishops or my cardinals or from my Pope.
Pope Francis's speech, dogging capitalism, raises the stakes for those eyeing the White House as the pontiff prepares to address a joint session of Congress in September.
He's going to disturb people on both sides of the aisle. But these are Catholic issues, and Catholics who are politicians and lawmakers are going to have to take what he says very seriously and consider it given his moral authority.
Father,
Indians are brown Caucasians living in Asia. Indians have every race card in the deck. Indians are technically whiter than Africans. Please stop. Whiteness is a social construct, okay, determined by the in-group. The in-group does not consider Indians to be white. It's that simple, okay? I don't know how we, it's like, look, I say I'm white, and in the United States of America, a lot of people do actually consider me to be white, but there are plenty who don't, right? If I'm in Germany, I am no longer white. I am something different. I'm Turkish, okay? That right there. In Turkey, I'm white. In America, I'm white. In Germany, not so white, okay? Why? Because it's made up, okay? It's made up. That's it.
Father Hernan Paredes, one of the pontiff's closest friends, agrees, saying it's difficult to guess what Francis, who is known for speaking off the cuff, will say, but it'll probably include
the message of hope, the message of pardon, the message of tenderness. I think we say it in English, ternura, a God who loves and cares for his children and who's ready to embrace, not to judge.
As the Pope continues traveling and speaking his mind, it's unclear if 2016 presidential candidates will embrace his views or judge them. Rosa Flores.
This is from 9 years ago.
To the call.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to the United States of America. Leak Hegseth, they're calling it. Leak Hegseth, my goat. He's under a lot of fire. Why is he under a lot of fire? As I said already, he just likes to send text messages. Didn't know that was illegal. Okay. Kind of weird that people don't like that he likes to go on booze cruises and send state secrets to whoever will listen. People without security clearances specifically. I think that's fucked up. I think he should be able to do that.
Calls for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to resign after sources told ABC that he shared details of a U.S. attack plan on Yemen in another group chat that included his wife and brother. Our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, has the latest for us. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. This morning, Pete Hegseth is brushing aside these new allegations. But if anyone in uniform had sent operational details to family members, they would likely be fired. Although, as of now, the president is defending Hegseth.
This morning, President Trump is publicly standing by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth amid growing calls for his resignation.
Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him.
Just weeks after revelations that Hegseth sent highly sensitive military attack plans to administration officials on the commercial app Signal, sources now say Hegseth shared some of the same sensitive attack plans with his wife Jennifer and others on a separate Signal chain.
Okay, but I said this yesterday too, but his wife is also a Fox News producer, so in his mind he thought she's qualified, considering that his qualifications were also that he was a Fox News producer. To become the defense secretary, his wife could get a little bit of that action too, you know what I mean?
That he created. The Signal chat he shared with his wife, a former Fox News producer, included launch plans of F-18 fighter jets attacking Yemen, according to sources. Hegseth has also been under scrutiny for allowing Jennifer Hegseth into some meetings with foreign dignitaries. But Hegseth denying he did anything wrong.
We're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news. doesn't matter.
This comes after a week of chaos at the Pentagon, with some of Hegseth's own top aides escorted out of the building after a leak investigation. The aides denying they leaked anything to the press. One of those top advisors, Dan Caldwell, telling Tucker Carlson,
and we had people who had personal vendettas against us.
Yes,
and I think they weaponized the investigation against us.
And pushback on the Hill is coming as well. Republican Congressman Don Bacon, who serves on the House Armed Services, saying, "I'm not going to tell the White House how to manage this, but I find it unacceptable, and I wouldn't tolerate it if I was in charge."
Congressman Bacon is the first sitting Republican to publicly criticize Hegseth, suggesting President Trump should fire the defense secretary. As for the leak investigation, these are not random top aides who were fired. They are senior advisors Hegseth himself brought into the Pentagon.
Wait, maybe they were DEI? Guys, maybe Pete Hegseth accidentally brought in top-level executives to the Pentagon, but like didn't realize that they were DEI, and that's why they're firing them. Potentially, maybe like DUI hires. Pete was like, what do you mean? I'm a DUI hire. Might as well bring in other DUI hires. And then everyone was like, you can't do that.
Why do you have confidence?
Because he's doing a great job. Right, Chef. Ask the Houthis how he's doing. Everybody's happy with it. We have the highest recruitment numbers.
Dude, this is the other thing. Like, I love when liberals are like, I hate Donald Trump, but his foreign policy is excellent. Like, what do you have the exact same foreign policy approach that Donald Trump has. Like you love that shit. You're a fan of all the stuff that he's doing. How'd that happen? Something to consider here.
I think they've had in.
Who says that? Every single liberal that yells at me and says, Hasan, you support the Houthis. You love terrorism. Every single liberal that says that is also incredibly angry and resentful, understandably, towards Donald Trump. But they agree with Donald Trump's foreign policy, I guess. They just hate the fact that, like, the thing that liberals hang on to about this Pete Hegseth stuff is the fact that they were having these conversations on Signal and were so stupid that they accidentally had an Atlantic reporter in the private chat. That's what they're mad about. They're mad about the incompetence. They're like, no, the
YouTube ads is made for your business. Bring your brand to life with targeted video ads and connect with the perfect audience. Grow your business and reach your people with YouTube ads.
Don't wish. Don't hope. Don't dream. No. Plan. See the steps it takes to get it done right and follow them. At Avis, we rent cars, unlike anyone else rents cars. Because for 75 years, we've only had one plan, to make sure you keep yours.
This again. Did it work? Hello? Am I back? Dude, that was weird. That was very weird. I don't know what happened. I got like straight up kicked off. I don't know what the audio is out of sync. Is it? It's not LA internet, chat. No, it's not. It's not LA internet. No. It's not. This was something different because my internet was fine. I had to very quickly swap out of my, did they hijack your key? What? No. What are you talking about? What do you mean hijack my key? Yeah, YouTube ads played when you dropped because I swapped it over. I swapped it over to the starting soon screen. And the starting soon screen has it automatically just plays lo-fi music in the background. The starting soon screen plays lo-fi hip hop on the background, and it's not logged into YouTube. So it just like plays ads sometimes. But what ended up happening was very strange right then and there. It was a very strange thing that took place. The secret memes one? No, that's just a BRB button. I have like a BRB ended. Wait, hold on. I have to do a quick troubleshooting real quick. But here, I'll just play this while I do this quick troubleshooting.
No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news.
Well, that was President Trump doubling down on his support for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth 24 hours ago, denying a New York Times report about sharing sensitive information on another Signal chat called Team Huddle. Here to set the record straight himself, the current Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, former host right here on Fox and Friends. Pete,
hey,
great
Brian.
to see you, Mr. Secretary.
Great to see you.
So your thoughts on what's been reporting of Team Huddle and the Signal chat that the New York Times says took place between you, your wife, and your brother, and some others?
So, Brian, if you remember when this all started.
Wait, former
Secretary, the current Secretary of State.
Oh, he knows, bro. He knows. What does he know? Brian, why did you do that? Oh, busted, dude. Busted.
Team Huddle. Here to set the record straight himself, the current Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, former host right here on Fox and Friends. Pete,
hey,
great
Brian.
to see you, Mr. Secretary.
Great to see you.
So your thoughts on what's been reporting of Team Huddle and the Signal chat that the New York Times says took place between you, your wife, and your brother, and some others?
So, Brian, if you remember when this all started, the first go-around, because this is the second go-around, right? They peddle old stuff, they kick it back up. I said repeatedly, no one's texting war plans. You know why I said that? Because I'm in the bowels of the Pentagon every single day. Just 10 minutes ago, I was looking at actual war plans of things that were ongoing or pending things to happen. Because that's on a regular basis on classified systems. That's my job for the war fighters, for the President of the United States. I look at war plans every single day. What was shared over Signal, then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordination and other things. That's what I've said from the beginning. At the beginning, it was left-wing reporters from The Atlantic who got a hold of it and then wanted to create a problem for the president. This is what it's all about, trying to get at President Trump and his agenda. Now, here at the Defense Department, because, Brian, I want this to be very clear. We take the classification of information very important. It's very significant to us that we safeguard it. And so when we had leaks, which we have had here, we did a serious leak investigation. And through that leak investigation, unfortunately, we found some folks that we believe were not holding to the protocols that we hold dear here at the Defense Department. Through that investigation, they have been moved on, and that investigation continues. As a result of that, everything we do here is above board, trying to make sure that we safeguard information. In this point, those folks who were leaking, who have been pushed out of the building.
I feel like Batman or Halo. Think of the 7 gifted subs. A real warfighter in the chat. Mister, I feel like Batman or Halo. RIP to a real one.
Are now attempting to leak and sabotage the president's agenda and what we're doing. And that's unfortunate. It's not what I do. It's not how we operate. And so you've got...
Bro, there is something incredibly ironic about complaining about leakers when the reason why you're in trouble is because you seemingly have no interest in stopping the dissemination of classified intelligence to people who do not have a security clearance. Like, what do you mean? You're the whole leak, big dog, which I like. I personally like that.
Got another allegation being pushed again, not based on how we're operating around here. We're for the warfighters, we're for the president, and none of this is based in reality.
So, Mr. Secretary, I guess I can conclude this. We know some bizarre situation with Michael Waltz happened with the first time the whole thing with the Signal app came out. You believe this came out, they said it was called Team Huddle, because one of the people who work for you, one of the 3 who no longer are there, leaked this out as a way to get back at you?
That's right, Brian. When you dismiss people who you believe are...
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Like, what matters is why you are having these conversations with your wife, dude, on your personal phone, on your private Signal app. What do you mean? Oh, I can't believe like a disgruntled former employee outed me. It's like, it's so stupid. This is not a defense of anything. Seamus had a funny take about this. He said, you really do get the impression that Hegseth fully expected to slip into the role of a respected Secretary of Defense, but instead he's still just him, an alcoholic Fox News host whose slip-ups are now under the magnifying glass of the entire world.
leaking classified information. And again, the investigation is ongoing, and that will take time. And when the evidence produced, it will go to DOJ.
He's like, yeah, I never believed in magic until I saw my dogs turn into snakes, dude. This is fucked up. Oh, you think you know a guy, and then you bring him into the Defense Department, and then he gets fired, and then he's disgruntled, and all of a sudden he's leaking all these secrets about me leaking state secrets, which who's the bigger leaker here, Pete? You are.
DOJ, why would it surprise anybody, Brian, if those very same people keep leaking to the very same reporters whatever information they think they can have to try to sabotage the agenda of the president or the secretary? So once a leaker, always a leaker, often a leaker. And so
it does feel like he's talking about himself here. Given why he's even having this conversation is that he's leaking state secrets to people that should not be hearing state secrets. It almost feels like he's saying this is an admission where he's like, once a leaker, always a leaker. I'm not going to stop. I will never stop. Okay. Put a fifth of whiskey in me and I'm going public. Okay. I'm telling you about Area 51. I'm telling you about our attack plans. I'm telling you Israel's got nukes. I'm telling it all. I'm unstoppable. This is what I like to do. Whiskey Pete, leaky Whiskey Pete. That's what they called me.
We looked for leakers because we take it very seriously. And we will do the investigation. Right. And if those people are exonerated, fantastic. We don't think, based on what we understand, that it's going to be a good day for a number of those individuals because of what was found in the investigation. So if they want to keep leaking and pushing and peddling things that try to sabotage the president's agenda, that's unfortunate. But that's how leaking works in this town. We're focused on recruiting, on rooting out DEI, on securing our southwest border, on the president's agenda, and it's going very well at the Pentagon, and I'm proud of it.
Right. So the Signal app is what everyone uses. We're all finding that out now because of the Chinese have infected and sabotaged, gotten involved in almost every other communications apparatus over the last 4 years. So that's where you're communicating. You say it took place, but there was no classified material in it.
I think it's so funny because I know for a fact that Brian Kilmeade is more intelligent than Pete Hegseth. Now, this isn't saying much because Pete Hegseth is a baboon, right? So I know for a fact that he's sitting there thinking, I cannot believe that the Trump administration got our weekend correspondent to become the Secretary of Defense. What the were they thinking? Of course, this is going to be catastrophic. Like, remember, Pete Hegseth was the weekend correspondent for their show, okay? And now he is the Secretary of Defense. Like, you think they didn't know that he was unqualified? You think Brian kill myself, you think he doesn't know that Pete is unqualified for this position? He knows. He knows Pete is unqualified for even Sean Hannity's position at Fox News. Like, think about that.
The staff will let go. Did you let them go?
Right. It was a result of an investigation ongoing at the Pentagon where we identified there was sufficient evidence, potentially, again, there's an investigation ongoing that will have to complete itself, sufficient evidence to believe that they or others near them were party to leaking. And then I have a statutory responsibility, Brian, if I believe that's the case, to ultimately ensure they no longer have access to that and that the investigation commences. There are a lot of ways to communicate in this building. I do it every day. I was just doing it this morning. Official channels by which we communicate classified information. If you want to do it and do it the right way, you should. If we think you are leaking to the press.
Who are you talking to? Are you talking to yourself, Pete? It's just so strange that it feels like he's talking about a totally separate guy who's the Secretary of Defense.
That's a very real problem. We take that very seriously at the Pentagon.
I don't understand. You're in trouble because you leaked, dumbass. The f do you mean? Oh, these other leakers are the real enemies of the state. Like, doesn't he realize that when he talks about this, it almost feels like he's talking about himself to the average person? Because to the average person, they don't give a f who actually was the one who went to the New York Times with the story. The average person goes, why is the Secretary of Defense communicating attack plans to his wife on Signal? You're the OG leaker, big dog. It's way. Okay, I'll say it like this. If you had not done this thing, right, that you are in trouble for, and instead someone from the people that you hired went out and like released state secrets, I would still be on board with that. I love leaks, but I understand why you could at least entertain this position. Like, oh, it's really fucked up that this guy that I hired was a disgruntled former employee that turned around and like released state secrets to the lying press or whatever, right? Like fake news media. Like that's, but you're the one who initially, like the entire point of contention here is that you leaked information. You leaked this information. So now whenever you talk about leakers and punishing them, it kind of feels like you're talking about yourself. Having said that, however, I do think that we are getting dumber and dumber.
Do one job.
No,
one job for the president and the American people. Secure the country. America first. Peace through strength. I don't have time for leakers. I don't have time for the hoax press that peddles old stories from disgruntled employees. We should be talking about the decimation of the Houthis, how we're pushing back the Chinese, how we have a new defense area at the southern border. Instead, disgruntled former employees are peddling things to try to save their ass.
Did you?
And ultimately, that's it's not going to work.
Mr. Secretary, did you find this out, or did they come to you? Because I know you know these guys. Like these are the guys you picked, especially Caldwell, and they worked for you for your previous job before you got over to Fox. And they said that they have not been asked to their phones. They weren't asked about communications. They didn't go through. They didn't take a polygraph. So why would they be let go and not be investigated?
Well, Brian, when there were a series of serious leaks at the Pentagon, which there were, Panama Canal plans, Elon Musk's visit, you name it, any number of things, and there's 4, 5, 6, 7 things. We said enough is enough. We're gonna launch a leak investigation, which we did, which was then handed over to OSI, which is the special investigators here at DOD. Right. Through that investigation, information was surfaced, which created a responsibility to take action. That's how it works when you invest, when you actually investigate leaks, Brian. So it's easy to say, oh.
It doesn't feel like you do, because if you did, you would investigate your leaks, as in what you did. This doesn't make any sense. It's like, Brian, it takes a real leaky faucet to know when someone is a leaker, okay? That's why I, in this 5D chess move, accidentally sent text messages to my wife and my lawyer without security clearance about America's attack plans in Yemen. You understand? I had to become the leaker myself to understand what it takes, the depravity, to become a leaker of state secrets. That's right. I am what you call a white hat leaker. I believe he's telling the truth about not knowing who the leaker is. Memory loss is common when you're blackout drunk after all. I love how stupid he is, because I think it's awesome that the Secretary of Defense is a dumbass who is going to keep doing like this, okay? It's great. I hope they don't fire him. I really, really hope they don't fire him. I hope he has a fresh stock of Fireball whiskey right next to his desk every day. Let's see where this goes. Have fun with it. Everything is fucked anyway. Everything is fucked up. You might as well enjoy the show. That's my analysis. That's my perspective. I think radical transparency is what Trump said he was going to do, and he is making the administration radically transparent. So transparent that this guy is going to come out and like live stream attack plans, you know? He'll be like, yeah, that's right. We're going to bomb Iran tomorrow. And here are the weapons that we're going to use. Here are the targets that we are going to be bombing. I don't know. Don't get mad at me. It's normal to say this stuff. F you. Hayır.
Well, we asked everybody, and everybody said they're good. Or you can take it seriously and say, we don't think leaks are okay at this department. Right. So we're going to investigate. And when we investigate, we'll take it anywhere it leads. And unfortunately, Brian, to your point.
Hell, yeah, don't fight the Nazis or anything. Just sit by and let it all happen because it's a show. Americans deserve fascism. Brother, what are you talking about? What more can I do? What do you want me to do, man? Plot an officer's coup within the ranks of the military? Like, what are you talking about? Some things are outside of my power, okay? Not everything deserves a reaction. Sometimes you can just kick back and enjoy the show, okay? Remember that.
and again, if one or two of these guys is exonerated after an investigation, great. That's what investigations are for. But we took it seriously. It led to some unfortunate places, people I have known for quite some time, but it's not my job to protect them. It's my job to protect national security, the President of the United States, and let the investigation go where it is. So when that evidence is gathered sufficiently, and this has all happened very quickly, it will be handed over to DOJ, and those people will be prosecuted if necessary. The leakers know who they are, and we know over time the truth will be told, and we stand firm behind that. Leaking is not okay in national security policy, and we will stand behind that every day of the week.
It looks like Carol and Selnick intend to sue for wrongful termination. And again, they didn't ask to take a polygraph test. Do you know Joe Casper? Is he still your chief of staff? Is he leaving?
Oh, Joe's a great guy. He's a great American. He has done a fantastic job for us at the Defense Department, securing the southwest border, getting a beachhead here at the Pentagon. He's staying with us, going to be in a slightly different role, but he's not going anywhere, certainly not fired. You make changes over time. And we're grateful for everything Joe's done.
So, as you know, one of the people that left, he says he was not fired, he let go. Other people said he was fired. John Hewlett, a former Pentagon spokesperson, decided to put this in Politico and say, here's a quote, "It's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon, from leaks of sensitive operational plans to mass firings. The dysfunctional, now a major distraction for the president, deserves better from his senior leadership. President Donald Trump has a strong record on holding his top officials to account. Given that, it's hard to see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth remaining in his role for much longer." You know him. I know he was let go. He had a great idea to get rid of Jackie Robinson, being sarcastic, from the Pentagon. Your thoughts about that statement?
You think it can all just be incremental? No February Revolution? What do you mean? Even to get to that point, you have to incrementally move and organize. It doesn't happen spontaneously.
Anybody that knows John knows why we let him go. We did a lot of favors for John. He did some good work up front. Then he was moved along and asked to move along. Now he's misrepresented a lot of things in the press. It's unfortunate. We did right by him. We tried to help. He's spinning it otherwise. It's too bad. It's politics, I guess.
Mr. Secretary, do you think you take this job, you come in with war experience and all your great background, do you think there's a lot of people who don't want you there, and there's some type of deep state forces that want to make sure you don't stay there?
They've come after me from day one, just like they've come after President Trump. I mean, I've gotten a fraction of what President Trump got in that first term. What he's endured is superhuman. It's not hard for me to do this job. I know exactly why I'm here: to bring warfighting and the warfighting ethos back to the Pentagon, to rip out the insidious ideologies and not compromise and not back down. To bring in new press voices into the Pentagon, which we've done, to reestablish standards and accountability, to not tolerate leakers, to 100% operational control of our border, to get rid of trans lunacy in the military. We haven't backed down. See, here's the thing. A lot of people come to Washington and they just play the game. And it's you punch their ticket and get along to go along. And, you know, start doing Meet the Press and going to the Council on Foreign Relations and spending time with all the new...
Okay, this is a aesthetic note. I think he moves around way too much and emotes way too much when talking about supposedly serious issues. It just feels like he's done a bump before this combo took place. Maybe I'm wrong, okay? But it feels kind of weird that he's just like, yeah, you don't understand. Everything's fine. I'm not drunk. Brian, you know me, Brian. I was the weekend host. You need a hair of the dog when you wake up to combat the shakes, Brian. Well, what are you? That's normal. It's medicine. It's medicine. Medicine to me. You view-botting? Yeah, totally.
New cocktail sipping crowd. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because President Trump asked me to bring warfighting back to the Pentagon every single day. That is our focus. And if people don't like it, they can come after me.
Rise up, bots in the chat.
I'm standing right here. The war fighters are behind us. Our enemies know they're on notice. Our allies know we're behind them. And that, in this dangerous world, for the American people, is what it's all about.
I've been on 2 bases over the last 2 months. They're overwhelmingly, anecdotally support for you. And they talked about recruiting going up. So I asked for official numbers. They are through the roof. Take a look at these numbers with the Army, Air Force, and Marines. You are up 108% in November, 119% in February, 108% after the election, 105% with the Navy, with the Marines up 112%.
Yeah, no, hell yeah, we need that. We need more dumbasses to die to defend Israel's genocide.
VAT taxes.